Rod here, coming to you today from Comb Wash in southeast Utah. And so before I get started, let me take a minute and kind of pan around the area here because it's really, really pretty. So before we get started, I'm just going to pan the area here because this has turned out to be really, really pretty. And surprisingly enough, I'm here alone. I really expected that there might be at least a few folks here, but right now I'm the only one. Perhaps they'll start coming in closer to the weekend. That right there is a portion of Comb Ridge, which is quite spectacular. And then over on the other side of the wash, a portion of Cedar Mesa. All right, so enough panning. Oh, and just so you know, you see what looks like clouds above the tree line there? That's actually a fire. And sadly, that's the second fire on this trip. I went by what was called the Pocket Fire in Arizona on the way up, and then when I got up coming into the Blanding area, I saw this smoke off in the distance, and took a few minutes at the gas station where I filled up and got some ice to get on the internet while I still had a connection to find out the status of this and make sure I wasn't going to be in an area that was in danger. Even though it didn't look like I was, obviously I keep an eye on it. This is probably one of the biggest fears now of camping in this part of the country is wildfires. Well, sorry for my slightly unkempt look here, but it's actually quite windy out here. And so I have the little microphone instead of using my other video camera. But it's gusting, you know, like right now it's kind of calm, but a few minutes ago, quite a powerful gust came through, which is of course part of the issue with wildfires, right? Okay, so today I want to talk about what's in the pack. And the reason I want to do this is there is a ton of unpreparedness out there. And I don't know, maybe it's just social media and the fact that more things are flying around more now than ever before. But it seems to me, I'm always reading about some death in some wilderness area somewhere. And we do know that social media is one of the impactful factors in more people enjoying our beautiful wilderness and outdoor areas. The problem is a lot of people come to places and they think it's like, you know, like a zoo, meaning a controlled environment. And the fact is, even if there are lots of people like the Grand Canyon or Yosemite Valley or something like that, it's not a controlled environment. It's a wilderness. And if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have respect for that, you could be in trouble. And like I said, I have run into tons of people who are totally unprepared. And it's really not a surprise to me that it's creating more problems. So I wanted to go over what I carry in my pack. Now, I tend to carry some things that probably a lot of people wouldn't want to. I do have a couple of extra little items, and then I do have what I consider essential items. Also, before we get started, obviously things I may need to get in a hurry are in any outside areas and compartments. And then when I pack it, and this is a day pack, I'm not talking backpacking, I'm just talking a day pack. When I pack it before I go out on a hike, I keep the things that I'm probably going to use toward the top and things I hope I don't have to use, like emergency supplies and such, at the bottom. That just makes it easier when I stop for a break or have lunch or, you know, see something interesting out on the trail. So let's go ahead and get started and see what I got. I'm going to start with the outside of the pack. First of all, what should be jumping out is the trekking pole. So here's my funny slash stupid story about the trekking pole. I used to have a walking stick that I really liked. It had a face carved into it. I dedicated it to my dad, who was a driving force behind my love of the outdoors and nature. And I left it at Zion when I was camped there in Zion. I had it kind of leaning in the branch of a bush, and when I made my final sweep before I took off, I couldn't see it because of the bush, and I drove off and left it. Sadly, I contacted their lost and found, but no one turned it in. So this I carry now. I carry it in my hand. I just have it affixed to my pack right now. This pack came with a method specifically to attach a set of trekking poles, and because I'm old and forgetful, yes, I lost the other trekking pole. A sad story there you don't need to hear about. So now I just use this as a walking stick, and if I get in a situation where I think I need a set of poles, I'll worry about that when it happens. So it stores there, but I take it off when it's time to go for a hike. This is just a little all-purpose mini carabiner, and this same thing, although I put these two things together. Now, sometimes I go cross-country, not as often as I used to, and before I started putting those two loops, holding them with something like that little carabiner, I would come through some brush where I was ducking and branches were grabbing, and I'd pop out the other end and my pack would be wide open. Fortunately, I didn't lose anything, but that's why I decided to start doing that, just in case. This is a compartment, and let's see what we have in here. This is a super water-absorbing bandana. I will move that around my belt, whoops, when I'm hiking, because it's almost like you can't go anywhere in the summer now that it isn't going to be hot. That's seeming to be just the way of it. And I sweat a lot in the face, underneath my glasses, you know, it gets wet and then they want to slide. And then of course around my forehead. So I keep that handy to wipe the sweat off. Also in this, and this is a new arrival, this is sadly a knee pad. Now I'm developing, I should say, an injury in my left knee, and I believe the root of it is golf. So I'm changing an aspect of my swing. But in the meantime, that knee bothers me, and I'm still recovering from the injury, and it may always bother me. That's just the way of it at this stage in life. So I put that in there, and if I need it, especially on demanding terrain where there's a lot of, you know, side-to-side movement, because, you know, trails aren't even, right? And that's where the pain is when the foot is not level on the ground. So I toss that in there, a little extra weight, but if I have an issue with my left knee on the trail, I'm prepared to deal with it. And then these are just a couple of straps. And these actually come in handy. I have used them to strap like sheds, antler sheds that I found. I don't take them out of where I'm going, but I sometimes decorate my campsite with them, as weird as that may sound. And then anything else that you want to attach to the exterior of the pack, if you had something in particular you were carrying, those. So I carry those come in handy from time to time. Okay, it has two side pockets, so just for storage. These are the gloves I started to wear. They have not only UV protection for the back of your hands, but it started to hurt my hand with the stick, or in this case, the trekking pole. It rubs. And I got these mainly to prevent that from becoming an issue. Also in this side pocket, I have this little book. So what I do is when I'm having lunch, I start to write down some notes about the trail, and then usually I finish it up when I get done with the hike, when I get back. All right, over here is a coil of rope. Now this is something that isn't necessary, and the truth is I don't always carry it, but that can come in handy. I actually helped a guy once get him and his pack up the side of a mountain. I don't know what happened, but his pack wound up, I think he tried to put it on a rock and it rolled down a mountainside. This was in the San Gorgonio wilderness a while back. And then he went after it and something happened. He was struggling to get back up. And I happened to be coming by and used that rope to help him out. So you never know, may come in handy. If you're really doing some serious bouldering, and I don't do so much of that anymore because I can't fall, so I have to be really careful. But if you're in a situation doing some serious bouldering, you could take off your pack, tie it up, lower it, raise it, whatever you need to do, and not have to worry that it's impacting your balance with what you're doing. But there's a coil of rope. Okay, in the other pocket, right now I have bear spray. I don't always carry that because I'm not always in bear country. And where is, there it is. I knew I had it somewhere. A compass in there. Now I did have the tie line of this outside attached to one of those little carabiners, but it kept getting snagged on things, so I just stuffed it down in there. So there's the compass. This is the front of the pack. And let's see what we have here on the shoulder straps. A bear whistle, that's just always there. I keep that there. Obviously the water tube. And then I carry this quick access knife. It's got a little rust on it because I used to have it on my boat. Now I just slip it there on the pack. And then down in the pouches that are on the hip strap, in one of them I carry a Leatherman tool. So you just never know. I mean, it's not a necessity, but it has a lot of things on it with multiple uses. This is the case for my phone. As you've seen in past videos, I use my phone a lot because I use Gaia GPS when I'm out, so it needs to be easily accessible. I have also found that when I'm carrying it in this as opposed to in a pocket, which a pocket is close to my body, the phone doesn't get nearly as hot. In a pocket it gets really hot, and I'm convinced that's because of the double whammy of sun and body heat. But in this, even though it's black, the phone doesn't get nearly as hot. And in the other little side pocket, I have this little small set of binoculars. And I like to keep that unzipped because it just makes it easier to get them in and out. And I use them quite a bit when I'm hiking. In the small outside pocket, this is where I carry electronics. So I have, a charging cord. Put that there. I have a small portable battery. And on the ground, let me pick up a light. And this can clip to a hat. So that is my emergency light. Now the primary reason for this battery and the cord is my phone. And again, I mentioned this in an earlier video. If you're out and you're tracking your hike, say in Gaia GPS, you're using phone battery. If you stop to take pictures, you're using phone battery. If you stop to look at Gaia and look at the map and see where you are, or keep it open for a few minutes because you're heading toward a specific target, you're using battery. And if you're taking videos, you're using battery, right? So occasionally my phone battery will go low, and this cord is long enough that I can connect it to the battery from this pouch, route the cord around, and have it go right into my phone and keep walking. It's nothing that I need to stop to do. Now, the other side of that is for most of my hikes, I don't need to recharge the battery while I'm out hiking. It does just fine on the phone. But if I got into an emergency, now I have some extra battery, not just for the phone, but for that little light there. All right, the main compartment. Now, if I were actually going on a hike today, which I'm not. I will be going tomorrow, but the food that I would be planning to eat would be right here on top. All right, so the first thing then, other than food, this is a waterproof, windproof shell rain jacket. And that is the very first thing. Why is the rain jacket on top? Because pretty much I know if it's going to rain or not. But I sweat because everything is hot, right? And when you stop, I stop in the shade. And assuming like today it's breezy, you're going to chill. And I almost always, as a result of that, have to put that jacket on under those circumstances so that I'm not chilling. So it is on the very top. All right, in this pouch, again, not here yet, I keep my wallet, and that's it. My keys to my car, I prefer to keep those in a zip pocket in my shorts, just an FYI. Okay, next in line is a fleece pullover. So again, if there's a temperature change, whether I start out layered and have to take clothes off, or whether it gets colder when I'm on the trail, I have this fleece pullover. And for example, when I was hiking on the Kolob Plateau in Zion, I knew it was going to be cold. So I did bring an extra layer that I did wind up having to put on, but obviously I dressed warmer to begin with because I knew what was coming. And there's that wind gusting up. So that's the second thing, is the fleece pullover. And it's lightweight, you know, it's not for super cold weather, just if things get cooler than you had originally planned. Okay, what is next? First aid kit. Now this first aid kit I have had for, I'm not kidding, 20, 30 or more years. And I don't use it much, which is good news, right? So one time I needed just a Band-Aid. That's typically, and hopefully for all of you, it's typically the most common first aid need is a Band-Aid. And the stick was gone, the paper crumbled. In other words, this first aid kit had been sitting unused and the insides unchanged out for like, I don't know, 20 years, and so my Band-Aids were no good. So the moral to this story is you have to replenish your first aid kit. So this first aid kit kind of opens up like this, and you can see the triangular bandage is coming out. Got some tape, got some gauze. These are actually emergency matches. God only knows if they're still any good. Some tweezers. These are some like knuckle bandages, and you see what I mean? And these are just things I haven't bothered to replace. Now in here, these are the newer Band-Aids, because like I said, Band-Aids are like my number one usage. Here's some other interesting facts from the old days. This is a snake bite kit. Now, since this first aid kit was put together, this has a little razor sharp thing, and you use these this is kind of a suction cup thing. You're supposed to put that over to suck out the venom. Well, all that nowadays they're saying don't do any of that. So it's an antique. These are smelling salts. Let's see what's in here. These are wipes, and I did change those out. Little pair of scissors. Let's see what else. More Band-Aids, and a little book. Probably the most important thing in here is a little book on medical advice. I don't know, what I don't seem to have is a tourniquet. And in all honesty, I should probably do that, but I'm betting I could use these as a tourniquet. So this probably isn't the best example of a totally well-stocked first aid kit, and every time I look at it, it reminds me that, yeah, I probably need to make some changes to it. But do have a first aid kit. All right, I feel like I'm reaching into a grab bag here. Okay, spare gloves. So these are also probably 30 or, I bet these are 40 years old. These I bought at the Army Navy store, and that's been a long, long time ago. They are wool. So they're not gloves you'd wear just anytime you're in cold weather because they're wool. They're kind of scratchy. And that's why I said, you know what, I'm just going to keep them because they're really good as emergency gloves. So these are my emergency wool gloves. All right, let's go in here. What is next? You never know. Okay, this is a pair of super lightweight wind pants. I almost always hike in shorts. Obviously, when I was on that Kolob Plateau Trail, I actually wore shorts with a pair of Gore-Tex pants over the top of them. Now, I have my Gore-Tex pants in my car, but I do not carry them in the pack because they're heavier and not conducive to traveling along easier. But these are made of a super tight weave. They're not waterproof. You will ultimately get wet. But they're definitely windproof, and the big advantage of these, and this is a Patagonia, and this is also 30, 40 years old, these pants, because there's no vents and the weave is so tight, they trap your body heat really well. So they actually provide more warmth than you think they're going to provide. Okay, this is something way at the bottom that I never use, but you never know, right? An emergency could happen. This is toilet paper. So way at the bottom. In another video, I'll talk about managing yourself on the trail because I see a lot of toilet paper flying around and I just hate it. It's one of my pet peeves. Okay, this is a Life Straw. Now, it's not the Life Straw brand. I think it's called Water Drop, but it's the same principle. You stick this in some horrible water, and you suck out of this end, and there's a filter in here, and it filters that water. So this is one of those world's wonderful inventions. I say that because back in the day, we carried iodine tablets, which you can still do, of course. Iodine still works. It tastes terrible. Now, if you're dealing with really terrible water and you're desperate, nothing's going to make it taste good. But I carry this now, my little Life Straw, just in case. Okay. Drugs. Now, I don't carry too many drugs, and I don't know if you can see that, but that's morphine. And probably if I dig around down here, yeah, I'm going to find the dropper to administer it. So, long story, but when my mother was in home hospice, she got a lot of morphine. As a matter of fact, she got a lot of a gazillion drugs, which I thought was kind of a waste. Most of them not needed, but there was some left over, and I took some and just threw it in the very bottom of my pack. Again, if I find myself in a really bad situation, let's say I did fall and I did fracture my hip, at least I would have a chance of alleviating pain while hoping help would arrive soon. So this is morphine, and I just leave it there and don't worry about it. And I think this is the last item. Yes, the famous emergency thermal blanket. So, I don't know how well this works. And as you can probably tell by the packaging, this is another item I've had for 30 or so years, and it lives at the very bottom of my pack. But you never know. So I have a couple of extra layers for cold, including a pair of pants. I have some wool gloves, and then I have this emergency blanket, and hopefully it would all be enough to get me through one night of very, very cold, and then worry about being rescued or hiking out or whatever it is on the next day. And you know what? I think, yeah, that is it. Finally, the last compartment in this pack is just water. And I've gone over that in detail in another video, so I won't go over that. I do carry 3 liters of water, and typically I don't use it all. My average consumption is roughly 2 liters for a 6 to 10 mile hike in let's say 80-degree weather, just depending on the sun exposure and the strenuousness of the hike. And then that means I have a little extra, again, just in case I get into trouble. So with all of that stuff, you may be asking, how much does it weigh? And the answer is, I don't know. I have never weighed it. Far and away, the heaviest thing you should ever be carrying is water. And the reason it's in that back compartment is your heaviest items need to be closest to your body. So that's the heaviest thing. Everything else is really not that big of a deal. Does it add up? Yeah, sure. So as you look at, a coil of rope, the knee brace, the little straps that I carry, those kind of things, you'll make your own decision about any extra weight that you're willing to carry on any given hike. As far as a first aid kit, a knife, a whistle, which can come in handy for rescue, by the way, if you get into trouble, some extra clothes, and the emergency blanket. To me, those are the kind of things that you have to have with you. It just makes sense. Far and away, the biggest thing I see out on the trail as far as errors is people are not dressed properly. As a matter of fact, I read an article that at the Grand Canyon, rangers are going to start pulling people off the trail if they are not dressed for hot weather, meaning loose clothing that actually covers your body. Because, when your body's exposed, your skin is going to burn, and burning is hot, right? And bad all the way around. Lack of large hats. Yeah, they're going to start taking people off because they're having too many problems with unprepared people requiring some kind of rescue or assistance, not realizing what happens as you go up to down and then try and turn around and, of course, go back up again. So hopefully what I've shown you is helpful and useful. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the old outdoors. Thanks again.